Hello, and welcome to the last lecture of the autumn series of new forums from OAF. We are happy to present two studios in conversation, one from Milan and one from Ghent. Studio Binocle is the office led by Italian architect Lorenzo Bini. Bini is educated in Milan and Oslo and graduated in 1998 from the Politecnico di Milano, and worked for different offices in Milan and Rotterdam until 2003, when he co-founded Studio Metrico before starting Studio Binocle in 2011. Binocle works on the transformation of existing spaces, shifting from temporary structures to permanent buildings and gardens. Besides his professional activity, Lorenzo has been adjunct professor at the Politecnico di Milano, visiting professor at the Design Academy Eindhoven, and is currently teaching at NAVA in Milano. His recent work is directly situated within the rich legacy of the 20th century Milanese architects and furniture designers. And recent works includes converting a grand villa by Piero Portaluppi into an art gallery, and curating an ongoing exhibition on the work of Vico Magistretti. And then we go to Doorzon Interior Architects. They were founded in 2005 by Stephanie Everard and Caroline Latour. Their projects were initially mainly in the private sector, ranging from new constructions and renovations to smaller interventions, such as specific custom furniture. During the last 15 years, their field of work has expanded further to public and international projects, numerous prestigious competition designs, scenographies and exhibitions. Since 2006, they both teach at KU Leuven. And among other things, they have collaborated with offices such as Wildervinck Talieu and 51N4E. 51N for E, sorry. For example, curating the Belgian pavilion at the Venice Biennale in 2016 with the former, and public spaces and scenography at the National Opera in Tirana with the latter. Lorenzo will now take you through the modality of their talk, and afterwards we will have some space and time for questions. So please raise your hand if you want to ask a question after the lecture. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and thank you, OAF, for the invitation. I will explain a little bit how we decided with Stephanie and Caroline to organize this, which is a sort of a conversation rather than a conventional lecture. When Sigrun contacted me to join this series and to invite another practice, I decided to contact Doorzon, which I didn't know personally. We actually never met physically, because I've been fascinated by the work since a long time, and thought this could be actually a way to find out more, to get to know more about the way they work, to basically verify if the interest is also a sort of symphony. So we started they accepted the invitation, and I'm very glad they did. And we started to discuss how we could build up this conversation. We started with sharing some thoughts, some themes that I guess accumulate our works, our practices. And at a certain point, they had this proposal to start with the images, start concentrating on the images of our work, to then eventually probably go back to the overall themes or subjects. So we decided that this lecture is going to be a sort of a card game. It's like a poker or something like this. Each practice has a number of cards that might not be used in their entirety. Probably we would use 4 or 5 cards each. I put together some red cards with work from Doorzon. So I actually selected several images of their work, and they did the same with my work. And we decided also to use a smaller image. Every card will be composed by 2 images. The big one is about the work of one of the 2 practices. And the small image is a free image. It's like an annotation or a reference or something we use to underline, I suppose, some aspects of the work which is described in the image. So I don't know anything about the cards, about my work, that Stephanie and Caroline will unveil tonight, and they don't know anything about the cards that I put together about their own work. Since I'm an Italian gentleman, I will then ask, leave Stephanie and Caroline the right to start by selecting the first of the card. So the moderator is actually the only person that knows both cards and will pick the cards on our invitation or command. Please start.
Thank you, Lorenzo. And thank you for the invitation. It was a pleasure working on this or preparing this lecture together with you. And in that way, we got to know each other a bit better and also our work. And it was, yeah, a real pleasure. So we will choose the cards. Yeah. We start with B9. Yeah, it's a small object, let's say, and we wanted to point it out, the importance or the necessity of designing small objects that surrounds us.
Okay. This is actually quite a fantastic one to start with, because I have to tell a little story about this box. It's a box that is called the Una box, and it's a little object, as you say, that I designed, but in a certain way I revisited from an existing typology, because 11 years ago, I had a fantastic news from a very good friend from Norway, from Oslo actually, a very, very good architect called Geir Brendeland. I hope he's online now. I'm sure people at AHO knows him very well. He has a practice with Olav Kristoffersen called BKARK. And we are very good friends with Geir since 20 years. And when he was about to become a father, he asked me if I could be the godfather of his daughter, Una. That was really a big honor for me, of course. Obviously, I've never been the godfather of anyone. And I decided that I was supposed to go to a sort of baptism of Una, and I decided that I wanted to design and build something for her. And I thought, what can I do for a person that I don't know, that is 1 year old, that I can't speak with? Even if I could, she doesn't speak my language, and I don't know anything about her life, her future, what is going to be. And then I happened to see a little box, an Indian box, with a very ingenious mechanism to open the box. And I decided that probably an empty box with a very secret system to unlock the lid and disclose the inside of the box was probably the best gift I could make for Una. Una is now 11 years old. She lives in Trondheim. She also has a little sister. And sometimes I got from Geir some images of what she stores in her little box. So this box is made with olive wood, Italian olive wood. It's a massive wood. It's a very simple object, but when it is closed, it's a completely mute object. So you don't, you have to really figure out. You have to remove this little pin, and then you understand that the top of the box can slide, and with few moves, eventually you can open and disclose the box. So, so then I think, in a way, I'm not a designer, I'm an architect, and this object has obviously a very reduced degree of complexity, but it was really designed as I would design an inhabitable space, even though it's only inhabited by objects. So I hope this is a satisfactory answer.
Yes, it's
Absolutely.
beautiful, Lorenzo. Yeah, we look at the object and then you see Una box and you think Una bomber and you don't know where this Una is coming from. And to hear you telling the story of the box, it's, yeah, we already like the cards game.
So I would say that talking about storing maybe, and since it's also B9, I would go with the D9. And I would just say a very little thing. When I saw this image, I was immediately intrigued by this project from 2019 called Boeken. I guess it's a project about storing in many ways. And I thought at a certain point, this image of an art installation by Hans Hemmer called Level from 1997 came into my mind. This guy made an exhibition or a little party in which he used blue foam to make all people even. So they're all 2 meters tall. And it's a very, very simple gesture, as I guess it is a very simple gesture, the one of Doorzon, to bend the bar with the clothes. But it's a gesture that, first of all, completely changes an experience. And also, to me, I identify in this gesture, correct me if I'm wrong, a sort of approach that you have not to consider for granted the most simple device in an interior environment, but to approach it with extreme rigor and curiosity. So to question even the most banal, apparently, devices.
Yeah, that's actually a really beautiful compliment, and it's true indeed that we find pleasure in creating solutions that are not obvious, but that's not always, I mean, it's not just that, of course. And this was a project for a client in Ghent, and it's one of our, let's say, typical projects, a house, an apartment with not a lot of storage space, and very often people come to us and ask us, yeah, can you foresee a nice place for our clothes or books or the objects we love and we care about? But we have a lot of it, and we don't have a lot of space. And actually, for this apartment, this was the case, because the two owners, the couple, they have a very impressive library, let's say, and they also like fashion, etc. So in this project, we did two things. We designed a bookcase, a library, which is alongside a very long wall, but we place it in double position. Let's say it's like a library in front of the library, and that can open. So that, and the other part of the commission was to foresee a cupboard. Let's say it's not really a cupboard. It's more like what you see on the picture. A place to storage the clothes, and we thought about it. This room was not very big, so what do we do then? Instead of installing a huge wall which closed cupboards, we decided, okay, let's foresee a curtain which is much more tactile, exactly. And behind the curtain, which is also a little bit translucent, we foresee this huge bar for hanging the clothes. It's as simple as that. But because of the length, then you start thinking, okay, this length, we should hang it or support it. So, okay, why not just bend it? Because it will bend anyway, and that's how
it came to be.
It came a reality, let's say.
And also, which is what I find very funny, Lorenzo, is the fact that we started with the box and we didn't see it as storage, but then you drew your storage card, and storage is also something that, being interior architects, we have, how do you call it, a love-hate relationship with, because people, unfortunately, they don't tend to come to us for an exciting design. Most of the time they come to us because they have a storage problem, and then we have to turn it into an exciting design, of course. And there you touched the core of our business in a way, in kind of a sad way, but it's also a funny way. And
but it's
No, I think it's just to me so immediate to look at this image and say it's so simple, but it's so also incredibly witty, because you move to the long clothes and to the short ones, and you know where things are placed, and it doesn't have to be too complex. It's just it's just coherent, extremely coherent to me with the function that this object should have. Almost that all bars should be bent from now on for me.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, maybe we have to start thinking about a new card, no?
Yes.
It's our turn.
It's our turn.
Good idea.
We would like to draw B6. Oh, there is a little shift in the image, but
that's better.
Yeah, that's better. Perfect. It's a drawing that we stole from your Instagram page, and the drawing fascinated us because of the beauty, the simple beauty. And I think you mentioned somewhere in a caption something about skirting, but actually we don't really know what you were doing here or why you were doing it. So the reason to show it is because we are very curious, and we would like you to explain it a little bit. And the image that we have confronted it with is a project, not really of me and Caroline, but of me, myself and Theo, who is my partner, and sometimes I work with him as well. It's a project that was recently delivered where you see the immediate architectural or interior reference of the Kroonlist. It's the crown, you know, the like a plinth or a skirting board, but on the ceiling that could be not exactly one of your drawings, but almost one of your drawings. It's very subtle, the picture, but still that's how we understood your drawing, but maybe you have to enlighten us on what it's really about. Also the ornamental quality is something that was very interesting to us and that we liked a lot about the drawing.
Yeah. I'm wondering if I knew what I was doing when I drew this. No, now I remember.
We have a lot of other cards, Lorenzo. It's not a problem.
Yeah. It's actually this drawing is it's a one-to-one. It's supposed to be a one-to-one print to make a one-to-one scale test for a quite ambitious skirting system that eventually became much less articulated. Actually, you could say eventually the one on the bottom is the skirting system we ended up using. The thing is that it's an interior project for the private residence of an art dealer, Milanese art dealer. And the part of the house that we transformed was supposed to become something in between a public and a private space. So it's part of the house, but it's the part of the house that is supposed to be open to the visitors, to the public, and also to artworks. And we, in this specific room, in a certain specific room, which is on the bal étage, the elevated ground, the first room you enter when you enter the house. We wanted to, we and the client, I mean, we wanted to have a space which was a very neutral space that would be domestic, but also apt to display artworks. And then we had the problem to organize or to hide or to properly lay out a certain of devices. So all the gaps you see are gaps between foldable slots that you can open in the skirting. So the small square one contains a socket, a plug. The larger one are to inspect electrical switches. The grid one is for ventilation, and so on. And of course, this is a study how these element could become possibly a decoration. So it could become something that we don't just necessarily want to hide, but we want to use the problem or the possibility of a boring device like a socket or a grid to give meaning to that line that divides the floor from the wall. So eventually these were, you know, when you start drawing, it could be like this, could be like that, and probably refers a lot to a certain vocabulary that I always observe in walking in Milano, in you know, when I look at the grid or a fence or a gate. So those geometrical shape are, I suppose, some kind of leftover of that visual repertoire that I have in my mind when I observe things. Maybe it's a bit sad that in the end the most boring layout made it through, but it's fantastic that you selected this image, and I also think the association of the image with this project that you did, Stephanie, it's also quite intriguing, especially if you, unless you want to say something about it, but
yeah.
Otherwise I can draw card number D7.
Yeah.
This is to me very mysterious element in one of your projects, and a very beautiful photograph, I think. And it made me think a lot about sight and James Wines, especially when he said in an interview, the point is to attack architecture. So I guess he meant by saying that he was more interested in the process and in the possibility that every project gives to discuss architecture in terms of its context, its means of construction, its rules somehow. And looking at this project or this element in your project made me immediately visually go back to the low remodeled house, and to this then I want to maybe ask you if could you sometimes see your work as a mean to attack architecture, also because you collaborate with a lot of architects?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a very interesting way to put it, because we work together, we collaborate a lot with architects, and it's something that we really like to do. But when we are really being honest, we always attack in a way, and it's always a friendly attack, if I may call it that. And yeah, it would be really great if some of the architects we are working with, or we have been working with, would be listening, because I am sure they will be laughing at this moment, because we have always attacked the subject in one way or another. The image that you have selected from our work, the left image, is actually a reference image. So I'm not sure if you know, Lorenzo, but it's not one of our projects.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's a very important reference image that has been, it's been used in different projects, because we really, it's a photograph that we have taken when we were working in Tirana in Albania. Okay. We were visiting one of the, how do you call it, this a residence of whom?
The minister,
the prime minister. Yeah,
I don't remember correctly.
Yeah, it's a house in Tirana where he is entertaining guests. So it's a place where there is a big dining room, quite formal, and then there are more informal rooms for, I don't know, smoking and having meetings. You can also stay there. There are a lot of bed and bathrooms, and very fascinating place. And we took the picture there because in Tirana, actually, we have taken a lot of those pictures. it started, I think, in the hotel where we were staying, where when we entered once in the evening, there was a place full of this type of tables. So they actually hang or attach this this curly tablecloth around the table. It's not a real tablecloth. It's a kind of
it's like
a skirt. It's really like a skirt. Yeah, it's really like a skirt. The reason why we have been photographing this is because we found it fascinating and beautiful. But the reason why we used it as a reference image in this project, it's from the Design Museum in Ghent, where we made a scenography for the permanent collection together with a Ghentian architect's office, Felt. And just before, you were mentioning something really briefly about the skirting and about this room being appropriate for showing artworks, and maybe about the room having to be, or maybe it's the client who thinks that, maybe it was you, I don't know, the room having to be neutral to be able to show the artwork in a proper way. And what we did in the Design Museum for the scenography was not really the opposite, but we tried to first investigate the fashion or the thing that scenographies are in Flanders. It is like that. Mostly they try to be neutral. A lot of white paint, a lot of MDF blocks, neutral, so the artwork can really speak for itself. And
they're not really designs.
They're
are not supposed to be beautiful on sich.
Yeah.
They are just the people that are drawing them or making them is just in a way to not confront with the object, let's say.
Yeah. And we are posing, or we put some questions next to that, because just before we got the commission for the Design Museum, we went to an exhibition in the Netherlands of the ceramics of Ettore Sottsass. And it was an incredible collection. You can for sure imagine what it looked like. And all those beautiful old ceramics, they were put on those ugly gray paint MDF boxes. And that was for us the end point of the MDF boxes. And we really thought like, okay, we really have to do it differently. And we have to make a scenography that has qualities of its own, that has maybe a slight color quality, maybe some materiality, some forms as well. And the whole scenography for the Design Museum was actually based on this image, in the way that we made tables, we made lower tables that are pedestals. Actually, we made different objects, and they all have this skirt. Of course, we didn't, or not of course, but we choose not to make the skirt in the fabric for the Design Museum, but we made it in an corrugated steel, polyester and steel plates. And yeah.
So in a way, this is a photograph taken by you of something you saw that you, you know, it went to a process of appropriation.
It's
and
true.
In a way, you could say this is also then becoming your project, no? That
Yeah,
this
obviously,
idea of appropriation.
You thought it was a project of us, so we appropriated it in an extreme way. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Thank
you. Making scenographies is something that we like a lot. It's a separate field
discipline.
in our work, but we enjoy it very much. And of course, we like to attack architecture to end with. But we will for sure continue on that.
Okay.
Oh, it's our turn to. B7. Maybe a short introduction. The left image we kind of fell in love with. We didn't know what it was. Now we know a little bit more because we have selected it and we had to find out what it was, of course. The image you see on the right is an art integration in an architectural project by a very good Flemish architect. His name is Bart de Hane, and the name of the architect is Dirk Zoete. So it's what you see is the corner of a social housing complex. So there are several of these houses, and for every corner, Dirk Zoete has developed a column that is, yeah, it's beautiful, and it's also a little bit functional in a way. All of the columns, they have, yeah, they are also really funny, I think, and beautiful. And in Flanders, it's for all the architects, this is of course an added value to the social housing project. But if you read interviews with the people who are passing by, or the people who are living there, for them it was kind of a fight because it's weird, and yeah, it's an interesting story. And this architect is quite specialized in art integration in his projects. And that's why we confronted it with your wall.
Yeah, it's this is a little studio. First of all, it's a photograph that I took in this limbo that usually happens on site when the project is basically finished and the user or the client is about to move in. So there are no furniture. He hasn't brought anything of his stuff, but the setting or the scenography, you could say, is ready to welcome life somehow. So it's actually the moment in which you deliver the key of the site, and that's symbolic. It's a symbolic moment, and you stop being the owner of the place as an architect and a site director, and you depart from your project in many ways. And I'm lucky because this is one of the few clients I happen to meet in my career that is also an art collector. So he has a passion not only for art but also for music. You could say he's a collector of things in general. So his house is now actually full of stuff, and he had fascination for the work of Morgane Schimber. She does a lot of, one of the work she does is to build these walls. So they do this masonry work using, instead of a mortar or conventional mortar, she mixed the mortar with the glue and with the color, and then she actually blow glitter on the fresh mortar before it dries. So if you look, if you could zoom in, those bindings, the purple ones are actually glittering. And there is also another strong motivation, which appears also in other images of this project, in other elements, because the owner of this house is also running a company producing building materials, so concrete blocks. So he asked her to build a wall for him using the blocks that his company's factory produce. And And I think the pleasure I had in few projects in my career, working with artists, has been always great. A very incredible experience. Because I think this is maybe an issue also dealing a lot with collaboration. What I love is that the roles can really mix. So when you start discussing a project with an artist, at least with an artist which is willing to build up a dialogue and understand the space you design and enter in the project without with a sort of with an interest for what you did, then the roles really blend. And sometimes you start thinking as an artist, and the artist start thinking as an architect, and the ideas are just flowing because they don't belong to neither the architect or the artist. So I think it is also something I learned working with artists is to also understand when the threshold, that could be this line between the wooden floor and the concrete floor that lays behind in the photograph of your work ends, and when and the consciousness somehow that as an architect working with the transformation of existing buildings, or an interior architect, you could say, your role is very often to design a background, to design the space on which things happen. So it's very important for me to understand where you should stop. You know, when you should stop designing, because what comes further is up to the user, to the owner. So I think these two images together, I think they are a lot about collaboration and the relationship with art and architecture, but also probably symbolize for me where the role of architects stop, which is the boundary of our profession, you could say. Now it's quite difficult because I think I have two cars that could be, but I think I go for D1.
D1. The D1.
Yeah,
The one.
D1. The
D1.
one, yes. Yeah, I wanted, I mean, you could say this is, yeah, we could talk probably for hours about photographing our work, because I find this image very beautiful of your one of your interior, I think, in use after breakfast or right after breakfast. And I wonder sometimes why so seldom what we do is photographed in this state, which is after the state I show in the previous photographs. So after we depart from our project and we leave space to the users. But I think, so then I think these images to me continue maybe the discussion about this idea that we deal with organizing the space, the furniture, the environment for human activities and to activate human activities. And we just then should really find pleasure in watching those activities unfold, and sometimes even brutalize what we do, or change or transform.
Yes, it's a picture, a project that's we can talk about in very different ways, because it tells a lot about the way we live and work and how those things come together. Actually, it is the private apartment of Stephanie, and she refurbished it a long time ago in 2006. And the way this apartment was totally transformed is very, very interesting. It's a small apartment, but it has so many nice qualities. As yeah, it's a really beautiful place where people can often come together and we eat together. We work there also quite a lot. And yeah, for me, this project is about collaboration, and also I don't know if you want to add some things.
Yeah, it's actually quite strange to look at it. Because I lived there for a start, also because it's quite an old picture. There's a photographer with whom we liked to work together some years ago, when he still did architecture and interior photography. And it's Frederik Verkruijsen. And actually he made, I think, at least 2, but maybe even 3 reportages in my apartment. And every time it evolved and it changed, but he chose always to take the pictures when something was happening, when we were just living there, when I was cleaning, when without emptying out the apartment. And actually now we work together with another photographer who works in a very different way. And it's interesting to think about the difference and the appealing quality of this image because of that fact. Because to be honest, you don't see so much architecture in this picture. You notice, yeah, there is a bookcase in the background and it's a small apartment. You can see that, and you see a table by a very good Belgian designer, and then somewhere it stops, but still it's really appealing. And it's good that you have chosen this image, because maybe for us it will also mean something in the future photography, because we have become so used to our other photographer, who was also incredible. It's Philippe Dujardin, but for him it's really important to empty out the space, and we have really gotten used to that, and it's so refreshing to see this again. And actually, from the past of Doorzon, or the first 10 years maybe, we have quite some pictures of this type that have become important, that have been published quite a lot, and that we have cherished always as an important image of the project that we have done. And it's always an image of, for example, a kitchen that we have carefully drawn, and that is in a precious stone, and that is really full of things and garbage and telephones and books and papers and food. And yeah, we really like the fact that a thing that you have designed is being used, because for us the use of the things is always, when we start to draw, it's always what we think about when we draw something for someone. How will you use it? And that's maybe one of the core themes in our practice. It's always been, and it's still like that today. So it's maybe already for 15 or 16 years, it's our favorite theme when we draw something. The use of the object, the use of the space. And that's what you see here.
Yeah. Whether we design a kitchen, we imagine the person who's using the kitchen or who is standing there with friends and eating, it's already full of those objects. And it's the same with the first image you choose with
oh yeah, the rod in the dressing room.
It's we see it immediately with being used and full of those.
And we're always when sometimes when we have clients who don't trust us on the use of their kitchen, for example, we're always really hurt. Because whenever somebody dares to think that we have designed something that is really beautiful, but I'm not sure if it will work, then we get really, really pissed. So, yeah.
So
actually, we are now sitting on top of this space.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Our
That's
office.
a short circuit, yeah.
It's really short circuit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I wonder, we have time for one last duo, or
Is it already that?
Oh my God! I thought we were just.
I ask the moderator. It's 10 to 8.
Yeah, I think you can do one more slide if you feel like it.
Okay. We do then last 2 slides, I guess.
Very difficult.
B1. B1 is
After D1.
After D1 comes B1. To us it's about the invitation, or the being a space being inviting, and this frame around the openings is a very important, or has a very important role in that, we think. Actually, this image came up, and then we put next to this image of your work, first we put an image of our work in Tirana, in the Center for Openness and Dialogue. We have actually done more or less the same. So there's also frames around the doors in red marble. But then we thought maybe it's too obvious, this confrontation, and we went for this beautiful reference image of Herman Čech. I don't know if you know the place. It's a small bar in the center of Vienna. And I think the reference is obvious. It's also this, how the opening is being taken care of by the architect. It's also with marble. Or maybe it's it's not faux marble. It's real marble. And in the image of Herman Čech, it's the road to the toilet. I'm not sure where. In your space, it's I think it's gallery spaces. It's probably exhibition spaces, but. Yeah, it's beautiful that Czech took the same care in this more secondary function, and but still a great duo, I think, to end with.
Yeah, I mean, I hope not to disappoint when I say that almost everything which is in that image on the left has been designed by Piero Portaluppi in the 30s, because this is a place that I had the luck to renovate, to transform. But the project that we did, it's a listed building, so it's also almost everything which is in the photograph is original.
But so tell us about the floor then.
Sorry?
Lorenzo, tell us about the floor then.
Yeah, well, quickly the Rosso Levanto marble, which it goes like a meander in this kind of labyrinthine space, is a beautiful, beautiful stones from Italy, which is a leitmotif in all the apartment. It's a modernist apartment, but it's an apartment in the project that stays very much in between classic and modern. That's why Portaluppi is, I guess, is also very, raised a lot of interest recently in not only Italian but also European culture. And the floor is very mysterious, but leads to probably an interesting topic. It's nut wood. It's original floor. With it is an original floor with a very thin aluminium profile between one slab and the other.
Wow.
And it is puzzling because everyone, including myself, look at this floor and think it's not an original floor. It almost looks like fake wood.
Ceramic wood, yeah.
But it is in fact is an extremely modern feature in this apartment. And we had when the gallery opened, or before the gallery opened, there was an open day without artworks, but only to open this former apartment to the citizens of Milan. And a lot of people came to ask me about the floor, and I almost had a fight with a woman because she wouldn't believe this floor was original, and that made me understand something that I didn't realize. That floor was not designed to be perceived as a huge surface. That floor was designed as a background for carpets, for tables, for furniture, for sofas. It was designed to be visible only, as a portion of surface between furniture. And today, that is, the house became a gallery space, and the floor is visible in its integrity. It's completely confusing. It is, it's almost, it doesn't carry the weight of, or doesn't sustain the character of the other feature of the apartment, like the beautiful motif of the skirting that becomes a door frame, and with also a slot for the curtain and so on. And it was also interesting that you might see in the main room on your left, there are two linear lights that we designed with a lighting designer from Milan called Metis. They are a very sophisticated beams with LED that you can dim, but also change the color temperature. And that a lot of people thought that those lights were original. So they were there since the 30s. So somehow in this specific project, I am the author of the removal of everything that was supposed to be before, and then the space appear as really as a very labyrinthine space because it's eventually empty.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. I would just conclude, I think, with the last card. I think I have the right to pick one more card, if I'm not mistaken. And I think I would like to talk a little bit of card D8. And this is just because I'm a bit obsessed with this idea of appropriation. sometimes I call it sampling, but also I think it's the idea of appropriation of something and transform it in our project in something else. I think it's the detail of the leg support that connects the leg with the table, if I'm not mistaken, with the tabletop, leads probably to this idea of assembly, of putting things together, of let's say, a strategy of designing without designing, with using a repertoire of elements, objects, shapes, and maybe also inventions that already exist, but as they are, made our own, and become, when they are made our own, because we understand them, because we look at them, because we are fascinated by them, they become part of our projects. So that's why I also used the reference of Hans-Peter Feldman, that is just collecting sea paintings by unknown painters, and he assembled them together, and he put them together, and he appropriates of these paintings, and he make them own, turn them into his own work.
So I was wondering, it's to me it's a little bit strange to look at this object or this table in that way. We do have a lot of projects where this theme of assembly to us is really clear and obvious, but I would not immediately call this table assembly or assembled. So is it about the geometric forms or the different elements that you are talking when you are talking about assembly?
Yeah, or more precisely, if I understand it right, the shape of this leg and these elements that connects the leg with the tabletop is a sort of you could say it's been sampled from a column.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's like of course, yeah, you have been making tables a lot, so this is
yes. So
the connection is
the idea of sampling or appropriating of something and transfer it in another context, scale, or project leads me to the idea of assembly, because the project seems to me then the consequence of putting together one or more element that comes from a repertoire of something that already exists.
Yeah, it's true. It's something that maybe we didn't realize, but for sure it's true.
Yeah.
There is a nice reference image that sometimes we use it next to this one or next to pictures of these tables, and it's of Axel Vervoort, who is an antique handler in Belgium, and he has a warehouse, I think in Antwerp, where you have this type of columns with the big colors on top, and it's beautiful. And the reference image only came after the table, but of course we collect so much in our memory, in our head, that it can't be but assembled or taken from somewhere. Every time you drive under a bridge on the motorway, there is a confrontation with something that is more or less similar to to this detail. And it's always like that the connection, as you will for sure know, the connection of a leg of a table to the top is always the biggest challenge when you make a table, because a table, it looks so simple, and yeah, it's like it's when you have to put a roof on a column or you make a table, it's exactly the same. It's the scale is different, but the question or
the structural performance is the same. Yeah,
it's exactly the same. Yeah, and it's sometimes something that we are always scared of. So you draw a table, and the problem is always concentrating there. So it's always an awkward moment and a difficult moment. But when you solve this moment or this specific detail in the table, then your table is finished, and that's so great about tables. I think I maybe you share this experience in the tableau tables that you have been making.
Yes, absolutely.
It's always about how connecting the horizontal with the vertical in a way.
Yeah.
And I probably also what I like about this furniture is that what is probably disturbing to me many times when you start thinking about a table, that the top and the legs perform different works, and immediately one could be brought to use two different materials. So what I also like about this image is that it appears to me that there is the same materiality in the legs and the top. It's just probably the thickness and the size of the two elements, which I guess are wood and some more synthetic plastic material, that changes, but you could say it's the same materiality, although the structural performance is very different.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Actually, the story of this table is also important to understand this table a little bit, I guess. It was for
a library in a school in France.
A reading space, let's say, for teenagers in a high school in close to Paris. And we worked on this project together with an architect, two architects from Paris, Miku Studio. And they had chosen a table for this specific reading room. And we were not so happy with the choice. And we said, oh, could it be possible that
maybe we draw a table
ourselves? Yes, you can. Yes, you can. But of course, price was an issue, and not only price. It's a series of tables with different forms that allow the students, let's say, to
organize themselves as they wish. Yeah. So they can sit alone at the window, they can make a group of tables to do a group work, so basically they have to run around with those tables, they have to pick them up and put them in another place, and we cannot expect them to be really careful, so it had to be sturdy in a way. And strong, but not too heavy. So it was, and then it had to fit in the price of the previously chosen tables. So we had a lot of boundaries, which we really like, because then it gets really interesting. And that's why this material was chosen also, because it's sturdy. The table has quite a serious leg, but because it's wood chips, it's not so heavy, and they can just pick it up and put it somewhere else. So that's more or less the story.
Great.
Less
Thank you.
Less romantic.
than the way you looked at it, but
I looked at your work too much recently. So I don't know, Sigrun, if you want to,
Hi. Hi, and thank you so much for this. We have really enjoyed following your card game. It's been a really good introduction and getting to know both of your practices. We have time for some questions, maybe some short ones. We went a little over, but it's absolutely fine. Well, I actually have a first question. I was wondering, to Doorzon, actually the table made me think of it. And I was wondering about the role of the interior architect. You've spoken a little bit about this, and I wonder if you can talk a little bit about an example of where you thought, or a project that you worked on, where you thought that this collaboration with an architect was like in a good balance, or is it always in a good balance? Or, you know, do you have an example where you thought that this was like, you know, a good example of
yeah, we have quite a few examples, good examples.
Yeah.
It's in my feeling, and maybe yours as well, it's in the end it's always a good collaboration, even if we had to fight a little bit, or we attacked the architecture, let's say, but in the
but maybe when we talk about our practice and some architects that we have regularly collaborated with here in Flanders, I think we can say that the former De Velder Vink Tailleur,
yes,
who are now Jan De Velder Inge Vink Architecten, they have in a very early stage they have
exactly
picked us up and asked us, or we started working together, and it's been a very, very fruitful collaboration that has many images, because we did competitions together, but we also worked on very simple one-family houses where we were from the beginning, or quite from the beginning, working on the interiors, and they were still developing the architecture. And so that's what we like the most, when we are invited in a project, or when we are working together from the start, when it's not afterwards. But of course it happens a lot that we do refurbishments where we come after some time. And this
also in a competition.
Also in competitions that we are invited as a last addition to the team. And yeah, there is still a lot in Belgium. There is still a lot of work when it comes to the culture of the interior architect. There is not so many people know what we actually do, I think. Mm-hmm. And things are changing, but there's still a long way to go. And we try we have a very nice practice since 15 years, and we really try to also in the future, more and more, we will try to be of meaning for other interior architects to use our practice and the things we have been able to do in the last 15 years together with really good architects, together in very nice projects. And we want to use our own work actually to investigate this position of the interior architect. So I hope you will hear from that in the next few years, because we are planning to do some proper research on that.
Yeah, that's exciting to hear. We will keep in touch. I feel like in both of your studios, there is almost a blurring of the lines also, in a very positive way, of between the sort of fields. That is, yeah. And let me see if there's, well, Antoine, you haven't received any more questions, and I have another one for Lorenzo also. I was just wondering, a little bit inspired by your skirting board conversation, which I really enjoyed also, your approach to Portalupi's detailing, in, because there's a very formal language that he has and very rich. And I wonder if you sometimes had to fill in the gaps, or how was your approach on sort of dealing with that very rich language?
Probably that there are only a few years from that skirting that I designed or even invented. It doesn't work perfectly, but you know, it hides what it's supposed to hide. And the other project for the art gallery in the Portalupi apartment, or in the apartment designed by Portalupi. And even though there are only a few years, there has been, I suppose, and they are for the same client. So the same client whose house I designed, in which we wanted to hide those devices, is the same clients that decided to open a new gallery in the Casa Wasserman, which is this former building by Piero Portalupi. And in these few years, it's almost like there has been a switch, and he always refers to the fact that contemporary art is now mature to be displayed in historical places. So in places that are charged by history, that they have a past, they have a high architectural quality, and when probably even hiding elements which are kind of more, we're more used to seeing in a domestic environment, is not a problem anymore. Of course, the problem in that project was to touch as less as we could, to preserve the existing, to be almost invisible in the technical devices we had to insert, the cables, the wires, the lamps, and so on. But the idea to have a neutral space in which displaying artworks had become almost obsolete by the time we started this new project. There might be also merely even a commercial strategy, no? You are supposed to see artworks in an environment that could resemble your home place, and then you are kind of triggered to make your own and to buy them. So, you know, this looks like my living room, and I can, you know, there is also this kind of probably thinking, but is also probably the idea that it's a place which is challenging for the artist, and probably also the public is mature to see art, contemporary art, in a different context. Maybe contemporary art has become historicized somehow.
Yeah.
So, don't really know if I answered your question, but
Oh, it's thank you for the answer. I think you did. Okay, we don't actually have any more questions, I think, from the public, unfortunately. But so I think unless you have something you want to conclude with, that we will thank you very much again for this very fun and yeah, new kind of lecture. And we will be inspired for the next session, and yeah, hope to talk to you all soon again.
Thank you. I hope the format, which, you know, probably doesn't say so much, doesn't show so much about the projects, but much, probably only about the thinking behind the project. Was not too difficult to follow. For me, it was actually very exciting and also inspiring, and also the match between the image was over the expectation somehow. So I'm very happy that we try this experiment.
Yeah,
it might become something more substantial in the future.
Yeah, I think you really got to the core of some of the important themes in both of your works. So it was very good way to do it, I think.
Yeah, we certainly enjoyed it.
Yeah, great. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much again, and I will
hope to see you in Oslo soon.
Yes, we would love to come to Oslo the next time.
Yeah, you will be very welcome here.
And to Milan.
And to Milan.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Again.
Okay.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.